All right, so point number 4 is, so I've had, don't avoid confrontation. Much good can come from strife if it's handled correctly. Love is proved in the bad times, and the sort of love we should have is described here in Luke 6. And I just wanted to point out this verse here and make a point here. It says here, and unto him that smiteth thee on the one cheek, offer also the other, and him that taketh away thy cloak, forbid not to take thy coat also. So I sort of touched on this on Romans 12, and it talked about, vengeance belongs to God, give place unto wrath. And the point I just want to make here is, you're not your spouse, you have the ability to keep the peace in your relationship, because generally we always put it to the other party. Remember I talked about that last week, where it's always the other person that has to change. You're always the other person that has to do right. If they would just do the right thing, then everything would be fine. But we have to change that mentality because we can't change other people, right? We can only change ourselves. And also we shouldn't be focused on other people serving us, right? Because I could be the same, right? I could be like, oh, if only you guys would be better church members, this church would be better, or something like that, right? But, that's silly, because I shouldn't be looking at, why this church the way it is and looking at you guys and putting the onus on you. I need to be firstly inward focused and say, hey, I've got to improve myself, improve my knowledge. I need to be a better soul winner. I need to be a better husband. I need to be a better father. And then hopefully when I've taken the beam out of mine own eye, right, then I can help try and encourage you guys to take the speck that is in your eye. So in a marriage, you need to have that perspective. And think, you have the ability to keep the peace in your family. Don't put the onus on your spouse and say, hey, if only they would do something different, we'd have peace. Because in every situation, you can always have peace in your home. And it's just like, this is why I wanted to point you to this verse. Because look, if somebody smites you on the cheek, you could smite them back, right? But the person that's having themselves smitten on the cheek, they have the power to keep the peace, because what's the response? Turn to him the other also. Not fight back. Do good to them that hate you. That you can do right. And as long as one party in the relationship is doing right, there will be peace. There's only conflict when both parties are doing wrong. So you have the ability to keep peace in your home. You can turn the other cheek. Serve. Don't expect your spouse to change, because it's out of your control. It may just frustrate and disappoint you. I want to show you this verse in Genesis, Genesis 13:7. I believe this is an example of turning the other cheek. Look here, it says here, and there was a strife between the herdmen of Abraham's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abraham said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. And if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. So remember when Abraham was called out of the land of the Chaldees, right? Lot went with him. Now Lot wasn't meant to go with him, right? That's what a lot of people think. So Lot was not meant to go with him. Lot went with him. And now they've grown to the point where there's strife between their herdmen and their cattle. Now, Abraham was the older. Abraham was the uncle, right? So you could say, well, Abraham didn't have to give way to Lot. Abraham was older. Lot should have respected Abraham, and Lot should have went to the left if Abraham went to the right. Lot shouldn't have even come out with Abraham. But if Abraham had that mentality, the strife would have just continued, right? So Abraham, hopefully being the more spiritual one in this situation here, it's just a story that we're just gleaning from. But we see here that he was willing to turn the other cheek. He had the power to keep the peace. So when there was strife, what did he say to Lot? Hey, if you go to the left, I'll go to the right. He gave way to Lot's preferences, right, and to Lot's desires. He said, if you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. So there's an example of if one person does the right thing, you can have peace. One party has the ability to make it work. Now, the reason why I bring this up, the reason why I bring this up is because you need to realize that conflict in a relationship only occurs when both parties do wrong. Because sometimes we want to put blame on the other party and say, oh, it was their fault, or you say it was their fault. But when there's conflict in a relationship, it's always because both are doing wrong, right? Because if one person did the right thing, there wouldn't be a conflict, right? Because there would be humility, there'd be forbearance, they'd be doing good to the other person and keeping the peace. So it's only when both are doing wrong is when you have conflict. So just think about that when you're blaming your spouse and saying, oh, if you do this, we wouldn't have this conflict, because you also wouldn't have the conflict if you were doing right too.